actually look at the camera. That's probably a good idea.
It's too late. I already started things. I thought everyone was ready. Anyways, how are you all doing? Sorry about all the technical problems. I'm surprised that there are concurrent viewers, actually, given how much that messed up. But I'm doing wonderfully. I'm Alexandria, also known as Ozma in the Dark, here with my wonderful co-hosts. Perfict, since you seem a bit more prepared. How are you?
I'm doing fine. You seem to have been busy.
Well, there was a lot of restarting everything, and then rushing to the bathroom before the start. How are you, Christiane?
I'm doing very well today. I got a nap before the show, so of course that always helps.
Yeah, getting plenty of sleep always helps. And here's our guest, Sosh. How are you?
I'm not too bad. Just been taking it easy for about a week. Had kind of what I think was probably just a minor cold, but they had me stay home from work, and now it's shut down for at least 2 weeks. So
yeah. Well, yeah, that's its own major situation. What with the coronavirus and everything, and people genuinely should stay home, and people also should get free money for it. So we today's topic is the gender critical movement. How aware of this is everyone? Whoever wants to start can.
I am far too aware of it. It's just turfs under their chosen name.
Well, yeah, but I mean, admittedly, everyone's got their own when people deal with the movement, obviously people are going to choose a name for the movement, and to my knowledge, the whole trans exclusionary radical feminism statement, as far as I've seen when it comes to looking back to things, was just a way to describe it, not necessarily negatively or positively, although gender critical people tend to take it negatively. What do you know about it? Perfict. Are you aware?
No, I'm not. I'm going to be finding out, I guess.
Okay. What about you, Sosh?
Yeah, painfully aware. I haven't really looked at a lot of what they're shouting or their arguments, but they're usually all the same ones. Same old lies.
Well, I mean, I think I think in terms of the moon, and because Perfict was a little less aware of it, yeah, I know.
Well, basically, it's them trying to tell us we don't belong in the women the binary. Those of us who are binary or feminine don't belong in the women category. We're a danger to women in women's spaces. We're just men trying to invade men's space, we're men trying to invade women's spaces. Wow, I got that wrong.
Yeah.
And nonsense. It's like the small animal. We're more afraid of you than you are of us.
Yeah, and this is one of those things where I don't think that we would I don't think any of us would agree or would disagree or whatever on the sort of trans women as women statement that gender critical people are disagree strongly with. But what I'm more interested in is so obviously everyone has a reason for thinking the way they do. So, and just to give you Christy described it relatively well in terms of the gender critical thing. It's very much a view on things from an absolutism perspective of you're born a boy, you'll always be a boy, nothing can change that sort of thing. There's only two sexes, man and woman, despite the fact that and oftentimes there is flagrant misuse of biology and just sort of doing the common conspiracy theory type thing of picking and choosing what facts you want to believe. But that being said, do you kind of understand what we're talking about, Perfict?
Well, yeah. I guess I understand. I think the subject underhand here. And I have difficulty with understanding the other part, which is, how is it that you would feel that it was somehow your job to inform somebody else about their sexual identity? That doesn't make a lot of sense. You need them to tell you.
Yeah, but I mean that I feel like it's taking like yes, that's a very trusting response, but these arguments are sorts of arguments that are made, and these people are people, and they come to these positions for any number of potential reasons. And I was curious if any of you had any thoughts on what can drive someone towards that particular type of viewpoint.
Well, I actually had a long conversation with I'm just gonna go with the word turf because I find them annoying, but I did have a long conversation with one, and I'm trying to explain from what it's like to be trans, which is a hard thing to explain to somebody. We had a really nice back and forth, but then it ended with, well, I was raped, so men shouldn't be in women's spaces. And it was like, wait, I thought I spent 6-7 hours getting through to you, and I thought you got it. And she really did. She was very she and then it was like she reverted like immediately, because we're dangerous. All men are dangerous, and that includes men who aren't men, I guess. So there's there is a fear factor in it, and I kind of get it. It's the same. It has a lot to do with the same misconceptions that they do with trans women in sports. It's really the same misconceptions, except now we're dangerous and predators and all that.
People really get their panties in a bunch over trans people in sports.
Well, yeah, but they get their panties in a bunch for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, but oftentimes these things don't come from nowhere. And there are a lot of examples of people instinctively going to something closer to the appropriate gender. So what is it, do you think, that is? I mean, I realized you mentioned a fear factor, Christy, but what else do you think, do you guys think actually drives someone towards that?
Oh, I was waiting for everybody else to go.
Yeah, anyone can go. Anyone can say their thoughts. I am updating technical issues, so I'm updating what the YouTube site is. So sorry if I'm a bit slow right at the moment.
Well, I do know that people get an awful lot get it confused with it being biology somehow, and even biology, that's an arguable subject. But gender identity is not the same thing as biology. It's not talking about biology. And if you settled the biological issue in an absolute and finite sense, it still wouldn't settle people's issue on gender identity.
No, just on a side note, it before it was turf, and before it was LGB without the T. It was called Women Born Women was the original movement.
Gotcha.
Name. So that gives you a little. That actually is more descriptive.
When was that started? Do you know?
Mid-90s, maybe.
Gotcha. So naturally, people, I mean, there have been descriptions of obviously what is what people might some of the mistakes made in the general thinking process, but in terms of having a conversation, logic and reason isn't necessarily the only thing that can help. And I'm curious, what are your thoughts on how the gender critical movement has or has not or does not go against feminism?
I'm gonna leave that one to Sosh. See what Sosh says.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at these groups and what are they actually doing? What are they talking about most of the time? And you don't really see them doing much of anything else, is the thing. You primarily just see them putting out this anti-trans rhetoric. And, well, kind of hard for me to believe that you're about actually advocating for anybody's rights when all you're doing is advocating against one group's rights. I don't know. I haven't much had the energy to look at that stuff lately. I have to do a lot of blocking on Twitter for it to be usable.
Yeah, well, I mean, to each their own. I'm stubborn and don't necessarily block as much as I potentially should. I don't know. What about you, Perfict or Christy?
Well, I as I was introduced to it, feminism was about an egalitarian goal of equal rights, particularly trying to see that women were not given a secondary role or rights, but that its objectives were equal rights. But there has been a shift, and yeah, you can find people who, by all rights, can claim to be feminists, but nonetheless they're arguing that trans people shouldn't be treated with equal rights, which strikes me as absurd.
Yeah.
I mean, it's absurd because of their position. I don't mean it's a little absurd to be arguing that, but that it's particularly absurd for them to be arguing that.
That's what I was going to say.
So in terms of do any of you have any idea of what sorts of ways that in which it because I think I get the impression that all three of you had the opinion, the same opinion, that it is a negative thing when it comes to feminism.
Yeah.
Works against feminism. And if that's the case, do you have any specifics on how it hurts feminism? Because I realize, Perfict, you mentioned the general egalitarian type aspect of feminism, but generally if you're having a conversation and you get too general, then it starts to go into an abstract mode. So I'm curious if any of you have specific ways in which the constant fight has worked against feminism.
I don't know where everybody is on their own screen, so I was pointing.
Yeah. Any one of you can
Oh no,
speak up.
I do, but I tend to talk too much. That's why.
Yeah. So, Sosh, I'll be that teacher who just calls on the person regardless of whether or not their hand is up. Are you aware of any specifics in regards to how it works against feminism?
I mean, specifically, I don't know, outside of spreading divisive anti-human rhetoric. I'm struggling to come up with a specific example.
What do you mean by anti-human rhetoric?
Well, trans people are people, and anti-trans rhetoric is therefore anti-human, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely has sectioned that particular aspect of humanity off, which has not worked out well in several areas of the past.
Well, and I mean, spreading exclusionary ideas like that towards one group is going to lead to exclusionary ideas towards other groups. That seems to always follow. And that's then the hangers-on, the ones who will try to excuse it and say, "Oh, I'm the good one. You don't have to exclude me along with my group." Well, they're gonna exclude you too eventually, and then move on to the next group to exclude. I don't know. That's what I've seen. Anecdotal, I know, but
yeah. Perfict. Christy, do you have any thoughts?
Well, yeah, it's like I was saying about the absurd, and that's part of it. If somebody is saying it's wrong to isolate one group of humanity and somehow feel that they should have lesser rights, therefore we're here to tell you that women are entitled to full and equal rights, but not those women. They're separate. It sort of undermines the whole point you just made.
Yeah.
Let's see. Sorry, I looked away from Twitch chat for a second, and there's a bunch up here. So sure, we can talk about gay, less men, women, and such, but no one brings up they're being silly. Because of the anti-human content comment. Bring up robot rights.
Oh.
Sorry, robots.
You are all robots, as it's put here to test me, as I've commented before.
Sorry. Sorry, I'm so used to hearing it, and I can't tell from chat whether or not you're being silly. In terms of sentience, that's entirely like. Then you start to get into the question of whether or not the rights of animals.
Well, I mean, let's tell them. I'll tell them. They're hearing it. Let's stick with human for the second. I mean, this is the human argument, and AI and animals can come. Is not a specific thing we have to worry about before we worry about human. I mean, I animal rights and all of that. Yeah,
don't make
cool.
us get into Picard spoilers here.
I
have. Yeah, exactly.
I haven't watched Picard.
Yeah, let's not do that then.
Spoil it. I genuinely want to watch the show.
I was substrate. No, I'm against substrate chauvinism. So just if for your Twitch followers, the one of the things I've actually said to to Christina Stock, because the big one, I managed to get a hold of the big one, was what I don't understand is you've got people who have seen the world from both sides of it, from the man and the woman side, and it would be useful, if nothing else, to it would be useful, if nothing else, to have us on board, because we know a lot of stuff about us that are about men that you don't. About the way men are, and the way to deal with men that you don't, because we pretended to be them long enough, especially someone like me who came out late.
I mean, coming out is like such a vague description. I mean, I came out to my parents like at age 21, but I wasn't able to get HRT until age 31. So like,
that isn't. I mean, what do you think about? I mean, we've seen it from both sides. Or as I put it, I've seen clods from both sides now, So, or chuds from both sides now. Because
why?
yeah.
Okay. Hear me out. This is a little bit of a sidetrack. What is up with the term chud?
It's something human underground dweller. I can't remember what the first one is. First part is
cannibalistic.
Cannibalistic human. Thank you. The
I mean, yeah. So it's essentially just being like those assholes or whatever.
Yeah.
But
it refers to it.
It's calling them a troglodyte.
It refers to an old movie by the same people who did Toxic Avenger.
Yeah. Although I'm not. It's just one of those terms that seems to be a great way to stop a conversation in its tracks. If you happen to be arguing with someone with views that you would categorize that way.
Well,
sorry, I might be a bit obsessed about.
Well, Christina Stock has now blocked me because her comeback was for a professor was completely useless, and then I boomered her.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a boomer's a different conversation because that's not like a serious type term.
No, I'm only a couple months off from boomer myself, so.
My parents are boomers and they're nice people, so I know boomers were nice. Although I don't call them boomers like most of the time, because they actually happen to agree with me. I may have lost my train of thought a little bit in terms of the gender critical in terms of.
Well, basically, it was the only point I was trying to make is we know stuff about men that they will never know, and having us on their side is like, well, there's a spy in the camp. We spent years and years undercover, pretending to be men. So, get a pump us for information. We have information, you don't.
I'm still basically doing it for my job 5 days a week.
Oh, ouch.
I'm sorry.
It's not so bad. It works for now. It works for now.
My problem is I forgot the question I asked. So shit. I want to repeat questions. Because essentially when it comes down to things like ultimately ideally we show the flaws about things. Like in this particular type of thing, we would show flaws that affect things that those individuals care about. And by those individuals I mean individuals of the gender critical movement. Because things don't just go away on their own. And you can't. There needs to be some amount of conversation had to show the ups and downs of the movement, and what's what's focused on, what positives and negatives that are focused on matter in terms of trying to get people to rationally to the point in which they start to rationally process things.
The problem
and
is
don't
that
bounce back.
The problem is that there are no ups on this. It has no. I mean, they go back to rape culture stuff sometimes, and a lot of them, or well, yeah, most of the rape culture is what they they do go on about, which is understandable, but again, that's not a part of who we are. And while you were fuck this, I was told by one person that I was socialized male, and I tried to explain the one thing a trans person is not, a trans woman especially. Well, a trans woman is not, or even a non-binary person. Not even. So sorry for using that word. One thing a trans woman is not is socialized male. We're socialized terrified. We're socialized in the wrong, as not who we are. And that is not socialized male. That is socialized something else entirely. It's almost a different category. I don't know what it's like to be socialized to women. Oh, sorry. Yeah, go.
I think you could explain that to a woman pretty easily by just trying to turn it around and say, what if everybody had always been treating you as if you were a man? And you came to realize that they might turn on you, and viciously, if they ever found out you weren't. Yeah. Would that have made you, feel comfortable and be socialized as a man? That doesn't make sense.
It's right there.
Sosh, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, geez. I don't know how hard my parents even tried to I don't know, it was kind of nice. They weren't like pushing me to be in sports and stuff, but I still, I don't know, they still tried to teach me to pretend at this role. And I got to a certain age, closer to 17 or 18, when I finally got out of there, and they would you really didn't like me doing things like shaving my arm hair or wearing eyeliner. They thought it was just kind of a rock and roll punk rock type thing, I think, at the time. But they were still just like, we don't want you to do that. Not in our house.
This I'm the weird one where my parents would have been fine if I wore makeup more often, but society kind of disincentivized me, and also my mom didn't really wear makeup much, so I had less motivation to wear makeup. But they didn't have a problem with me wearing eyeliner or anything like that, or playing with Barbie dolls, or I'm really lucky with parents.
I don't know if it's just the way I carry myself or what, but it seems like people always look at me weird no matter how femme or mask or andro I'm presenting. They're like always confusion.
Yeah. And at this point, technically, we should be going on to accepting calls if anyone wants to go onto the Discord. We can probably figure that out. They can message one of us on Discord. Something. If you want to get on the show, we will find a way. I'm sure I can send you an invite link or whatever if you want to talk on this show during this last hour, and we can talk about technically this is when we should be talking about anything. I know we didn't talk about the general curricle thing too much, partially because of technical difficulty, but that's okay. Let's keep it chill. There's been a whole massive coronavirus thing going on out there, and you know what? There's enough. There's enough crazy stuff. I think it's okay for us to just be a little bit chill for this last bit.
Buffalo is locked down. We are not moving anywhere. So I got nowhere to go.
Yeah. I also don't really have anywhere to go because my roommates are home all the time because they work from home because the coronavirus is nutso, and I don't leave the house much anyways, and most of the places are closed down, so there's not a lot to do right now.
Yeah, little did I know that my lifestyle is called social isolating.
Yeah.
No, I mean the only interesting thing I have is that book fell apart. The book I was going to be in seems to have fallen apart, and I have not been unable to contact the publishers, which really sucks.
I'm sorry.
Damn.
So it was a for a trans charity, so I was looking forward to having the story in there.
But yeah, no, I don't know. Some of a lot of this stuff has just been rough for a lot of people. But yeah, this is why I'm it's not like people are taught much about ways to have conversations with people in which you're actually changing people's minds. A lot of people learn stuff like nostalgia critic style, where they just criticize and without the constructive part of the criticism. So then if people don't have anything to do with that criticism, or don't, obviously people also might actively not want to do anything with the criticism, but if people don't know what to do with the criticism, that involves them changing their habits, how they treat people or whatnot. There are a lot of ways in which people are more likely to resist if they don't have clear other options, or they're not shown the other ways in which the way they're coming about things is harmful. And a lot of that is why I want to bring up gender critical stuff, because I was genuinely curious.
I might be offline in a second.
What?
Sorry, we just had a thunder strike and we blinked. The block blanked out for a second.
Oh. It's like, oh shit.
That was the sun.
If it ends early, we all know why now, and it'll just be like a early ending stream. It's like the shortest one, depending on with the technical issues that have been going on today. Like I restarted a lot of different things. Not the computer itself, but like a lot of different things for what I was doing for streaming before I finally got to work properly.
You know, the thing with changing people's minds, it's most, to be perfectly honest, we're still a new thing to people.
Yeah.
Regardless of where we made progress on the margins, in sports, I mean, since we've been allowed in most federations since 2004, and people don't know that. I don't do sports, but apparently I can. Or there was a Cheers episode years ago when the gang thought there were two gay guys that came in and it was going to turn them into a gay bar, and the episode ends with Sam going, "No, I'm not going to kick anybody out. This is for everybody," which incidentally my bartender kind of did that. He kicked someone out who tried to block the women's room for me, without me even seeing it, which was nice. But the episode ends with Diane telling the gang, "You know, there are two gay regulars here. They've been here every night." And they finally, and they both kiss Norm on the cheek. And it was like, the exposure is one of the better things. The backlash comes from exposure, and I think it gets better. I think, weirdly enough, even the Trump anti-trans thing has made people look at it and say, this is not acceptable. These are people. Like kids in cages, that's not acceptable. These are people. And so it's really kind of all I had.
Yeah, and exposure is a big thing. Sosh sent me something. Well, I mean, technically everyone. An interesting article. I don't know much about the medium in terms of the quality of the source, Sosh. If you could,
I can't attest to that or one way or another, but it.
I follow her on Twitter. Is there a way? I actually don't know if there's a way to put the.
Oh, the link is in the Zoom text chat.
Yeah, in the Zoom text chat.
Put it. Yeah, let's put it in the little box thingy. I've read this. I've read the really long version of this, and the really short version of this. I haven't read this version of this.
Oh, is this the in between?
This is the in between one, which it actually reads better than either of the two. The
semi-abridged.
Yeah, I follow Mary Ellen on Twitter. She's a pretty she's pretty cool. I like people who understand and grow. My mom is one of those people. So my mom was we just went We stopped. Stream ended
What?
4 seconds. Stream ended 4 seconds ago.
It's still going on
Still
my
going
side.
on.
Is it?
Still
Yeah.
going on YouTube for me.
Okay. I don't understand, but I'll believe everybody because I believe people.
Well, I mean, the original one ended a while ago, and then I sent a link in the chat for the update because everything I had to stop and start everything. So, if you never refresh the page, it's always possible that you have really outdated information that got stuck there.
Yeah, I'm still on. Stream starts soon. Okay, and I don't have the other. That's all right.
It's in chat.
The
YouTube link, technically different site for me to Perfict, and then I have the YouTube link.
I'm not worried about it as long as my technical skills are minimal. No, my mom was a bit like that. When she was going to come and visit us for the first time. Now there are 3 trans people here, one of each. Trans woman, trans man, non-binary. So my mom initially was coming up and going to say, well, everybody has to tell me in person what they are and what to call them, because otherwise I'm not going to bother with it. But when she got here, she called everybody by the proper pronoun and really went out of her way to make my kid's significant other feel comfortable. It was not at all what I expected. I expected a lot of yelling. Not on my side. I don't yell anymore, but and one of the bestest things about transitioning was I don't yell anymore.
I yell more so. Like, I go against like all the stereotypes about horror. Like I swear progesterone made me angry, and it's not like I haven't gotten my testosterone tested. My testosterone is still like 10 or 15 nanograms per deciliter or whatever. Like it's still super low. But I mean, it's one of those things where it's not like testosterone controls everything, and some of it's just like me being more myself. And let's be honest, there are plenty of cis women who get angry more than anyone here. And yell more than anyone here.
my one aunt, her first thing was you're mutilating yourself so you can pretend to be a woman. It's like, oh, okay. Well, you're not my favorite aunt anymore.
No.
My favorite aunt lives right by you, by the way. So, that's who I'm staying with when I come visit. If in case anybody thought I was going to shack up with them. Sorry.
I got a couch.
But she sent both me and my kid rainbow scarves. This for our birthdays. Our birthday is the same day too, so both trans. Our birthday's the same day. It's very confusing. So I think people can figure it out, and I guess especially if it's more people have family members or extended family who also have trans people or gender non-conforming people in them, or
Well, then you get into the conspiracy that it's spreading, and people are converted to it.
Oh well, yeah. I was absolutely converted into going to gay bars. That was totally a thing.
So I think the one thing I can find from the, like, after skimming through the article that was sent, I think the one thing that I could find that seemed the most useful was basically a description of a lack of trust of trans people, a lack of trust of the difference of being like actually possible. So, you know, it seems to be sort of a description of the thing where if I immediately lost my train of thought. Sort of, if you don't understand it, either they're lying, like people are more likely to jump to the lying part because it's
yeah, I mean it's a fear stemming from lack of understanding, largely, I imagine.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where it's when you have a problem that's hard to explain, and you have people who instinctively don't trust you, and then to try to point out the basic things, I'm not sure. I'm almost, actually, the more I'm thinking about it, I'm not sure how much can be done past exposure and putting them in a situation that's not hostile with trans people, so that they're not as defensive.
This is one of the reasons I try and talk to TERFs this month. I actually try and talk to a lot of them. Christina Shock, I just wanted to say fuck you, was kind of where I was coming from, but I really did give it a shot, right? For a second. But her entire career is based on would disintegrate if she didn't have people they hate. And
well, I mean that's naturally that's ascribing a motive, and
well, yes, and
sorry, my brain went into having a conversation if you're talking about like large groups of people.
I apologize. Christina Shock is a member of the Go-Go's. Christina Stock.
I'm really sorry now.
I'm so sorry I said the worst.
Are you sure you were talking to the right one?
I was talking to the right one. I was talking to the British professor who is losing her job. So I'm not upset that she's losing her job.
Heartless.
I'm not.
Well, yeah,
I know you're not.
Well, I mean, a lot of this stuff is
Quite
also like a lot of times when people instinctively go towards talking about something, there's a cognitive behavioral thing where people will go into these almost instinctive decisionary paths, and that's to some degree what leads people towards conspiracy theory type views on things.
And then you have the boomerang effect when they're proved wrong. When they're proved wrong, they're less likely to believe they're wrong. It's a messed up part of the human brain.
Well, yeah. Although obviously there are ways to potentially mitigate that to some degree, but it involves, for one, the person, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, the person has to be actually in a position so that they're actually thinking about things instead of going down these instinctive trees. It's not like people going down instinctive trees aren't thinking about things, but there's a specific way for like stopping, stepping back, thinking about things. There's a specific way, to my understanding, that the brain works that's differently from the more instinctive trees, and I don't remember the terminology. Probably cognitive something.
Yes, and of course I should remember the term, and I don't. But one of the ways that you get around the boomerang effect, which also has a more technical name, get around the boomerang effect is by exposure, and it is by people being more patient and not saying you're wrong, and just saying, okay, this is how I understand it, this is how I've been taught it, and that's at least that's what I generally try to do. Especially with the socialized male, which is something that frustrates the fuck out of me, and I want to scream at every single person who says it. Thankfully, I don't scream at people anymore, as I said. But I want to. But I can take that road, that separate road, and say this is what I really came up as. And of course, I can always bring out the Nazi and the showgirl, which, my parents. And then if I'm really in a pissy mood, I can just bring out that I'm actually XX. So all your arguments are moot.
Unfortunately, or possibly fortunately, I can't make that statement. Probably fortunately for medical reasons, having to deal with a lot more back and forth of transitioning stuff. I mean, also, it's one of those things where it's a lot harder for me to be taken as an exception. Well, unless I do actually find out I'm XX. I don't actually know my chromosomes. It's not like I checked them.
Well, one of the reasons why they should, the doctor should have checked my chart is when they put me on the one thing, and it made me quite crazy. And the one thing that it says absolutely do not prescribe to females. So I have to be a little more careful of that in the future, especially with the transition. So
yeah, and
I did yell during that one while I was taking that. A lot.
Yeah, and a lot of this stuff, I did that thing where I started talking, but I didn't actually have something directly to say. Perfect. Or Sosh, do you have anything more to say about some similar topics, or something you're interested in talking about? Well, I mean, Sosh, especially, if there's something you're interested in talking about, since you are our guest.
Gosh, I'm sorry I wasn't a little more prepared.
That's fine. I don't think anyone here
No.
was super prepared this week. I know. And we've at least gotten an hour worth of stuff. I'm sure it's fine, unless you got something else.
We can all say in unison, "Fuck Graham Linehan."
Yeah.
We could, but I am too stubborn about the way I have conversations about things. So, given anytime I'm in a public forum, I'm now like more and more stubborn about trying to talk about things and frame them in such a way that they're more likely to be listened to. Because I'm obsessive and I'm no fun. I just like killed everyone's.
Oh no!
I mean, admittedly, the short-term positive effect, emotional effect that would have been caused if I were to say fuck Grand Lonahem, if that were to happen,
You just did.
I will make sure to edit that out. No,
Yeah, that's now the sound bite. I got it as my ringtone.
No, I mean the short-term emotional thing. I'm someone just like I get way more concerned about the long-term, the broader reaching thing. I say that like I have an audience. Sorry viewers. I like you. I like all three current viewers. You're all great people.
We get decent after views, so.
But yeah, if things have quieted down, I think we should start. That sounds like a time to start wrapping up. So.
And
unless you disagree,
there's no count. There was no countdown clock, so everybody be happy.
Yeah. Everything is working as it should. I blame Zoom as potentially having fixed a bug under certain circumstances. I don't know.
Well, because I use it for all the interviews, I have paid for it. So.
Christy, do you have any projects coming up?
I'm still going to finish the story because it's a damn good story, and I'll figure out where to place it. I just don't have to finish it by Tuesday. So, I had a very long talk with the publisher and the novel. We worked out the kinks and we worked out the problems with the novel. There are no kinks. So I should have that finished by the end of the month.
And where can you people find you as well, Christy?
I'm sorry. There's just Christy. There's Christy Abbey spelled if you can see if it's on screen. I'm not sure. Christy Abbey. And I'm gonna be interviewing someone this week. I haven't finished the interviewing myself yet. I'm very likely to drag Sosh into that. That seems like a reasonable thing to do because they can't get away right now.
What about Perfict? You working on anything, or and where can people find you?
They can find me hanging out on the Discord, the Rumpus Room Discord, particularly Atheist Haven, and Trans and Non-Binary Friendly.
Nice.
Thank you.
Sosh, what are you working on, and where can people find you?
I really don't have a lot going on. I guess I'm kind of working on writing and recording some music. If I ever get anything done, I'll probably put some links up to a SoundCloud or something on my Twitter. You can find me on Twitter. My handle is just Sosh713.
Okay. And you can find me, Ozma in the Dark, wherever you type that in. I probably will be. Minus Blizzard. I'm Ozma of Oz in Blizzard. But that's because I did it before I started to try to have a cohesive handle. But yeah, and also Twitter, I'm talking to nothing. And I am trying to get a video done because I'm trying to do this thing where I'm trying to do constructive criticism of Essence of Thought and Xanderhall, and I which terrifies me still, because I clearly still have abandonment issues, but
well, we're the ones who are still friends with Essence of Thought, so
well,
you know.
I mean, I'm still friends with them too. It's just I'm terrified of coming off the wrong way and not being friends anymore. But
I wouldn't worry about it. We've disagreed in public before and not had any backlash from it. As long as you're reasonable.
Yeah. I try to be. And everyone stay safe, with the coronavirus and everything going on. Make sure to keep public distancing, and I lost my train of thought. Have a good one. I don't know if you guys all feel the same way. Wow, my brain is slowly shutting down.
Okay, but I think it's time to go. Peace, everybody.
All right, see you later, Perfect.
See ya, everyone. Have a good one, and just have a good time, everyone. Do your best to take care of yourselves.